I use a lot of smart home gear, and most of it fades into the background after the first week. The Roborock MaxV Ultra is the rare kind of tool that earns its place by doing work I used to do every day. It is a robot vacuum and sonic mop with a dock that handles the messy parts. If you have a busy household, pets or children, mixed flooring, and you want floors that actually look and feel clean without babysitting a robot, this fits that category. The design matters because it dictates how much you interact with it. The dock is substantial. It holds a dust bag and 2 water tanks. One tank is for clean water, the other is for dirty water. The lids are clearly labeled. The tanks lift straight out with a satisfying click, and the handles are big enough that I can carry them with one hand even when they are full. The dust bag has a pull tab that seals itself as you remove it. I swap that bag every couple of months in my house with 2 children and a dog. That is with the robot running several times a week. The base also has a wash tray where the mop gets scrubbed, and there is hot air drying built in. That part prevents that sour mop smell I used to get with older stations. The robot itself looks like most puck-shaped vacuums, but a few little details affect daily use. The front bumper houses sensors and a camera for obstacle avoidance. There are dual rubber brushes underneath that do not snag hair as easily as bristle brushes. The mop pad lifts up when it reaches carpet, and it actually lifts high enough that I have not had damp tracks on my rugs. There is a small detergent reservoir in the dock. I add a small amount of cleaning solution, and that gives a nicer finish on the kitchen tiles. Setup took me about 20 minutes at a relaxed pace. I unboxed it, snapped off the protective foam, filled the clean water tank, and plugged in the dock. The initial mapping run is automatic. The robot rolled around my first floor, scanned the rooms, and created a map in the smartphone application. I like that it identifies rooms and doors on its own. I renamed the rooms and merged a couple of odd boundaries. It remembers multiple floors, but I only run it on the main level. Connecting it to my wireless internet took another minute, and the application walked me through it without drama. Once the map exists, the day-to-day experience is genuinely simple. I have 2 routines that keep my place in check. At night, after the kids go to bed, I run a kitchen mop job. The robot backs out, wets the pad, and starts scrubbing in a slow, deliberate motion that looks like the way you would actually mop. Every so often it returns to the dock, washes the pad with clean water, squeezes out the dirty water, and goes back to where it left off. In the morning, the mop is bone dry because of the hot air cycle, and there is no mildew smell. The second routine is a full first floor clean, which is roughly 1,800 square feet. I schedule that for Monday and Thursday mornings. The robot handles the mix of hardwood and rugs without my intervention. It vacuums the carpets with strong suction and lifts the mop away from the fibers so nothing gets damp. Performance is what matters. Suction is very strong. I do not want to recite numbers just to recite them, but it is among the strongest I have tested in this category. You can hear it ramp up on rugs, and it pulls visible debris out of the carpet pile that my old upright would leave behind in a quick pass. On hard floors, the rubber rollers keep rice, cereal, and pet hair from scattering. The edge cleaning is better than I expected. Along my baseboards and around chair legs, it leaves a thin, clean line rather than a halo of dust. The mop is not pretending to replace a deep scrub by hand after a cooking disaster, but for day-to-day maintenance it is excellent. The sonic action matters less as a spec and more as a feeling. Sticky juice rings and dried footprints come up in 1 or 2 passes, without me having to pre-treat. I can set water levels and scrubbing intensity in the application. For my kitchen, I use higher water and higher scrubbing. For the hallway, I use medium across the board. If the pad gets too dirty during a job, the station automatically washes it and resumes, which keeps the floor from getting streaky. Obstacle avoidance is where this robot has saved me the most time. I have 2 kids and a dog. That means socks, toy cars, small blocks, and the occasional pet accident. The front camera and lights detect these things early and steer around them. I have watched it slow down, take a better look, and then scoot around a headphone cable without dragging it across the room. It is not perfect. A thin black shoelace on a dark rug still looks like a shadow, and it tried to vacuum it once. The good news is that the robot stopped and asked for help instead of chewing the lace into the roller. Speed and battery are a non-issue in my use. The full run on my first floor takes about an hour and a half, depending on how many chair legs it has to navigate. If it ever needs more power, it will top up and then return to where it left off, but it rarely does. Noise is present but not overwhelming. On hardwood, it is a soft hum with the occasional clack of a pebble. On carpets, it is louder but still conversation-friendly. The only truly loud moment is the self-emptying after a run. That is a quick burst that lasts a few seconds. It is fine during the day, but I avoid scheduling it for nap time. I did a handful of real tests to see how it would handle my messes. Crumbs and sprinkles from decorating cookies on the kitchen island were gone in one pass. Rice from a spilled container did not snowplow along the front bumper. The rollers pulled it in cleanly. Dried muddy paw prints by the back door needed 2 passes with high scrub and a mid-cycle pad wash. Sticky spots from juice on the breakfast nook came up without leaving a sticky feel underfoot, which is my personal bar for whether a mop job is actually good. On carpet, I sprinkled baking soda to mimic fine dust. The robot picked up most of it on the first pass and finished the rest on the second pass when I set a double vacuum. I checked the dust bin bag afterward and saw a satisfying amount of fine powder. One specific use case that has become routine is my nightly kitchen reset. After dinner, I pick up chairs and push them onto the table a little, move the floor mat by the sink, and run a targeted mop job just for the kitchen zone. The robot handles the table legs gracefully, cleans right up against the kick plates, then returns to wash and dry the pad. It finishes before I sit down to watch a show, and the floor is dry by the time I come back for a glass of water. In the morning, my socks do not stick to anything, and there are no crumbs riding along to the living room. A few smart features genuinely add value. The map editor in the application lets me set no-go zones and mop-only zones. I put a no-mop zone over the deep shag rug in the living room just in case, even though the mop lifts. Room-based scheduling is great. I run the entryway more often during rainy weeks. The robot can recognize rooms as kitchen or bedroom, but I adjusted those labels to match how we use the space. There is a quiet mode for late-night vacuuming if someone is asleep, but I tend to run the loud tasks like self-emptying and pad washing during the day. The hot air drying cycle after each mop job is the unsung hero. It stops that damp smell, and the pad looks better over time because it is not staying wet for hours. Maintenance is simple and fast. Every 2 or 3 days, I empty the dirty water tank and refill the clean one. Every few days, I wipe the wash tray in the dock with a cloth. Every couple of months, I replace the dust bag. The dual rubber rollers barely collect hair, but I still check them on the weekend and pull off anything that wraps around the ends. Filters are easy to pop out and rinse. The dock needs a little space around it and some clearance above to lift the lids, so plan a spot for it before you commit. There are some rough edges. The dock is big and not something you hide behind a plant. The self-emptying is loud for a moment, and if you are sensitive to noise, you will notice it. The camera for obstacle avoidance is extremely helpful, but if you are privacy conscious, you will want to stick to the settings that limit remote viewing. The application is powerful, which means there are a lot of options. It took me a few days to settle on a routine that felt automatic and not fiddly. If you have mostly hard floors with area rugs, if you are tired of sticky spots in the kitchen, and if toys or cables tend to be left out, this robot is built for that reality. It vacuums well, it mops well, and it takes care of its own mop pad. It handles everyday mess without drama, and it keeps going without me hovering. If you have wall-to-wall carpet and very few hard surfaces, the mop will not mean as much to you, and a simpler vacuum might be enough. If you want quiet above all else, you will notice the dock during cleaning cycles. For me, the real win is that I schedule it, refill water every couple of days, empty dirty water on the same rhythm, and then I forget about floor care in between. The floors look clean, they feel clean under bare feet, and the house stays more livable with far less effort from me. You can view detailed information about the Roborock MaxV Ultra in the comments section. Thank you for watching.